Hello everybody, welcome back, and thanks for joining me for this April Q&A video. This is the episode each month where you basically get to direct the show and you tell me what you want to hear about, what you want my opinion on, and we'll see if you can stump me. So we have 8 questions this month the viewers have sent in. The first is from Catherine Arnold, and Catherine asks, where would you draw the line for aging and staying in the wheeled life? That's a great question, and this is certainly something that people talk about from time to time, and you'll see people have different opinions about it. At least I've encountered people with different opinions, ranging from assuming that they'll eventually get off the road and go back to a sticks and bricks residence of some sort, up to people who assume that they'll stay in a van or RV until the day they die. I think with some planning, both financial and taking care of your health, you can definitely maximize that and increase the amount of time you're able to be on the road. But the truth is that between financial concerns and just a person's ability to, if they have health problems, it may require them to be near certain medical care or regularly, or they may have family things that come up. So there's different things that can come up that would impact that, and so it can vary for each person, I think. But I don't think there's a hard and fast rule on that. I know people in their 70s who are doing the van life. I've met people in their 80s who are full-time in an SUV and still really, really active. So it really depends a lot on the individual and on their health and on their financial situation and on their just overall ability and willingness to continue with this lifestyle. So some people get tired of it after a while, and some just really love it and can't see going back to anything else. But I don't think age itself is necessarily a barrier, because as I say, I've known some people who are in their 70s and even 80s who are doing this, and in some cases they put me to shame in terms of their activity level. Okay, so the next question comes from Gail Cooper. Gail asks, I like to start a new dream with how would I do it if money were no object? Then I get as close to that dream as possible. So what rig with what features would you buy if money were no object? I think if money were no object, I'd probably be looking at some kind of a schoolie. I'd buy as new as I could in a used school bus, with low miles and good maintenance. Try and buy straight from the school district, and then I'd spend probably a few months really outfitting it right and doing it the way I wanted it to be and to look, with the expectation that it would last me for a good long time, many years. RVs are great, but they tend to not hold up all that great. Now, you're a little different if you get into the really high dollar motor coaches, but you're so limited where you can go with those because of ground clearance and just the design of them. They're designed to go RV park to RV park. And with doing something I did myself, and I do have the skills to do it, so, and it's fun for me to do that kind of thing. I would be able to set up a bus to go pretty much within reason wherever I wanted to go, because you're really getting into a 4-wheel drive if you want to get too far back. But within reason, I think I could do that with a bus. So I think that would be my first choice. Okay, Angela asks, as a Canadian traveling the U.S. in a van, what park passes would you recommend for this coming summer? National passes, state passes, club passes for gas, or other tourist discounts? I've never gotten into the club passes for gas things. That could be an option if you think that if you find one that you feel like is going to be a good fit for where you're going to be traveling. A lot of in the U.S. we have, you'll see different chains of gas stations in different regions. So and you won't see those in other regions. So you might be limited to, if you want to do that, you might be a little limited to where the region you're going to be in. As far as tourist discounts, again, that would depend on where you're going and what you're looking for. There are a variety of different programs. I tend to not do a lot of commercial, official touristy things. My style of travel tends to be more to see the scenery and find historic things. And so those things aren't really something that I pay a lot of attention to personally. As far as state and national park passes, the National Park Service here in the U.S. does have a annual pass. It was $80 last I knew, but I did hear it might be going up. But some of the national parks the cheapest ones are $10 to get into, and a lot of them are $20 and even $30, the more popular ones. So if you're planning on stopping at a lot of national parks, that's a good value. It gets you into pretty much all the national parks and monuments. So that's definitely something that's worth looking at if you plan to do a lot of those. I would definitely recommend that pass. The state passes, again, it depends how much time you're going to spend in a particular state. You can get, they vary between states, but it can save you some money if you plan to spend a lot of time camping in different states. For example, New Mexico has a great one that if you stay in the New Mexico State Parks a lot, it will definitely pay for itself over the course of a season, many times over probably. But it depends how long you're going to be there. If you're only going to spend a week or two there, it may not pay off. So that's kind of really, I think you have to kind of come down to a rough idea of where you're going and what you want to see, what kind of traveling you're going to be doing, and then kind of go from there with that. But I definitely recommend the National Parks Pass if you're planning on looking at, if you're going to be visiting a lot of national parks. Ram Van asks, I would like to see or know what you are baking in your 12-volt lunchbox oven. I would like to know what 12-volt appliances you have. A review would be appreciated so we know if we would benefit from getting one too. Funny thing with the 12-volt appliances, these are things actually Deborah uses a lot. I actually don't use them because normally when I cook, I'm cooking outside. But with the way the van is set up right now and with the back problems I have, it's really difficult for me to do any cooking in the van. So when we do cook in the van, Deborah usually does it, and she does it using those 12-volt things. We have a 12-volt coffee pot, and we have a 12-volt crock pot, slow cooker, and we have a 12-volt little lunchbox size oven. We've used all of them a fair bit. I will tell you that the coffee pot we burned out several cords on before we replaced the standard cigarette style outlet thing that came with it. The amount of power that thing draws, it just melts them down. So we have a friend who's a master electrician, and he did the wiring for Deborah and put on some good 12-volt connectors, and those have worked fine since then. We've had no problems with them. And we do use them, they do work. They're a little bit slower maybe than home stuff. The coffee pot will probably take 10 or 15 minutes to brew a pot of coffee, and it's a smaller pot. It's like, we can get like we got like 16 or 20 ounce travel mugs, and basically get 1 cup of coffee out of it. So to brew a couple cups of coffee in the morning is like a half-hour process. So if the wind's not bad or it's not pouring rain, we'll often just do that outside with a pour-over brewers I have. But it does work, and it's an option. And definitely the slow cooker and the oven, they do work. They take a little longer than the home appliances would. So you can figure probably an hour to 2 hours depending on what you're cooking. A lot of times what we'll do is we'll prepare a meal before we travel and have it cook while we're driving. But we can do them. We have run them off of solar before, but you have to watch the batteries because they do pull down a fair amount of power. We have on our To Meander channel, we have done a partial review on the oven, and we are planning reviews on all 3 of them sometime in the future, hopefully within the next few months, because people have been asking. But those 3, they're all made by Road Pro, and you can get them from Amazon, or you can get them from pretty much any truck stop. They carry them. But they do work. But you may have to, and I don't know for sure with the slow cooker and the oven, because we just replaced all of them, the cords, after the problems with the coffee pot. But definitely with the coffee pot, you'll have to replace the cord with a new 12-volt connection, in our experience. And Catherine Arnold asks, what's the most stressful thing about van life, not related to work, unless that's the only kind of stress you have? I will say, first of all, that right now, the work challenges are my biggest stress with van life, just in terms of maintaining enough power. Because even with 400 watts of solar and 300 amp hours of batteries, with a refrigerator and 2 of us running laptops all day, we suck it down. That's without even turning on fans and things or doing any electric cooking. So that is a concern, and it's also a real challenge getting internet connection, cell data connection that's good enough for the work that I have to do. So that's turning out to be a real challenge. That's my biggest stress these days. Next to that is probably just the challenges of, and this is a flip side thing, is being away from family a lot. But at the same time, my family's spread out all over the country. So because I'm a nomad, I'm able to travel and see family. Some of these people I'm able to see more often than I would otherwise. And sometimes it works out really cool where I just am able to bump in and see somebody because they're traveling near where I happen to be. and so that's really cool when that happens. But for instance, this last couple months, we were in Arizona, and I went up to Wyoming for Christmas and back to Arizona, and then Deborah and I went up to Wyoming in late January for my fourth granddaughter's birth. We arrived the day she was born and stayed there for a couple weeks, and then we worked our way back down into Arizona and into Texas, down in the Houston area, where we saw some of Deborah's family and friends, and also I was able to see my youngest son and his wife. They were going to college down there, and then from there we worked our way up, saw some other relatives of Deborah's and a friend of Deborah's, all the way up to New York State, where we're now visiting with family and friends up here. So because I'm a nomad, I'm able to do those things, but it's also hard because I'm often away from people I want to see. So it's kind of a both sides of the coin, but that's probably the biggest thing outside of work for stress for me. Sandra McNamara writes, Robert, I am starting my first nomad experience next month. Actually, I'm terrified about something going wrong, but that said, I would like to know if you could recommend a spot I could go in Arizona that would make me most comfortable for a virgin trip. This time of year, April, you probably will not want to be down in the southwest desert, like around Quartzsite and Ehrenberg and things. That gets pretty hot. I bailed out of the 1st of March last year. It did stay a little cooler this year in the spring, but it usually gets pretty uncomfortably hot unless you have electricity and you're staying in an RV park where you can plug in. This time of year, you may want to look like around Wickenburg or around Sedona or Cottonwood area. You'll probably find a lot of other nomads around there you can meet, because a lot of people are in that area now. Prescott has some nice scenery, but some of those areas are pretty busy around Prescott, so depending on how much traffic you want to deal with, you may want to look for a more rural one. When we were there, we were near Thumb Butte, and that was a lot of traffic around there. Too much for our liking. But it wouldn't bother everybody. It just was our preference. But those are kind of the areas around Arizona you probably see a little bit later in the summer, later in May and in June. Flagstaff and Williams are really nice, and you'll find a lot of nomads there in that time frame. Note of caution in that area, though, that northeast corner of Arizona especially, and even eastern Arizona in general, they have a monsoon season that starts later in the summer, goes into early fall, and you can easily get stranded on a forest road up there. Hold on a second. Deborah's over here doing a project. Come over here, Deborah. You don't have to get on camera if you don't want, but
okay.
You can be off camera.
Okay.
I was just telling the folks here about monsoon season in Flagstaff and getting stranded.
God. Yeah, like up to your belly of the van, stranded, and several people having to help dig you out and get you down the mountain.
She's not lying. We set up in Belmont, just west of Arizona. Beautiful day in I think it was in August. Beautiful day, and we knew there was a monsoon season. We thought it was over already. We weren't well informed, and we just set up, and within half an hour, this thunderstorm rolled in, and we had like crazy hail. It just kept going and going and going, like it was never going to end. And it rained every day for weeks, and we were literally stuck up there because the road we came in looked like a lake. I mean, we couldn't get out, and we had a trailer at the time. We were stuck. So that's something to be aware of up there.
I gotta come back, and what he's not telling you guys is that he left in the meantime to go to Wyoming for a family event and needed to go. He had to go, and anyway, so it was while he was gone that I got stuck and had to have help getting off the mountain.
This is completely true. It was a real challenge. We had after weeks of this, we finally had a day or two. It didn't rain, and I barely managed to get out in my car in the mud. And so I had to run up, and so after she had some friends graciously helped her get out from there, and as soon as that happened, I ran back down. Well, I didn't run. I raced back down from Wyoming and picked her up, and we drove back up to Arizona together. We're back to Wyoming together. Hey, Linda asks, do you think about medical emergencies? Do you have that covered? How important is it when boondocking to stay within cell phone range? I don't live my life in fear of medical emergencies. I grew up with a RN as a mother, so I sort of picked up a lot of medical stuff by osmosis. And then I was an EMT and went about halfway through paramedic school before my back went out in a big way, so I wasn't able to continue that line of work anymore. So I'm pretty well versed in medical stuff. And because of the way health insurance works in this country. I don't have health insurance. It's not financially affordable for me. Even if I could afford the monthly premiums, I wouldn't be able to afford to actually use it anyway. So I don't have medical insurance. So I don't go to the doctor unless it's a real legitimate crisis anyways. But so I don't live in fear of it, but it is something that's in the back of my mind from time to time and does concern me. And it is something I would like to get addressed at some point, to have better access to medical care. That is a challenge when you're on the road, because sometimes you're in places that don't have good medical facilities, even if you have insurance, or, so that could be a challenge in trying to find good care. I just kind of try and pay attention to take care of myself. I'm working diligently to try and make some lifestyle changes to improve my health, in hopes of limiting those kind of things anyways. As far as cell phone coverage, I basically need it for work. I'm not worried about being off of cell phone coverage, but it does provide a little bit of peace of mind if I do have it, knowing that if there's any kind of a problem, I can at least call for help. What we have, Deborah actually has a GPS, a Spot Gen 3, that is, in case of a true medical emergency or an accident or injury, that kind of thing, you can hit a button and it sends a GPS signal, and they dispatch the appropriate authorities, search and rescue units, whatever, based on where your location is. So that's kind of our fail-safe if we're somewhere that doesn't have coverage and that happens. And we actually have a review on that on our Meander channel, so that you may want to check that out. But I don't worry about it really, but I do have a little more peace of mind when I do have access to coverage, just in case something happens and I need something. Usually when something happens, in my experience, it's been lesser emergencies, getting stuck in the mud like we were just talking about, or, a vehicle that won't start, or a mechanical breakdown, that kind of thing. And still, if you're a long ways from having coverage, then that's a concern. I try to, if I'm going to be camped somewhere without coverage, I try to at least make a note of the last time I had it and where I'm likely to be able to get it again in case I have to walk to get coverage. Okay, and finally, Chantel asks, why did you choose an Apple laptop? That's one of my new big purchase. You've seen in a recent video probably. I don't even remember now which channel it was on. It might have been on Meander channel. I was at the Apple store in Austin, Texas, and I purchased a new MacBook Pro. I needed to upgrade my computer in a big way, and I'd been saving for many months to do that. And I've used Windows, Linux, and Apple computers over the years. I've worked in for about a decade in journalism, and all the newspaper offices I worked in used Mac computers, so I was familiar with it from that. I kind of like Apple's computers. I like the Mac OS operating system. That's kind of a preference thing, I guess. I also like some of the software that's available on Mac, and then from a video editing perspective, which is the bulk of the work I do these days, I've been using Adobe Premiere Pro, so I can use that either on Windows or on Mac, so that's cross-platform, so that is nice for that. And I wanted to try out Final Cut Pro, which I am actually using now. And after the learning curve, I'm getting to really like it for the most part. There's a few things that I don't really love about it, but about that particular program, but basically I'm liking it, and I'm using that now. There is a little bit of a price premium. It's easy to look and say, oh, well, a new Mac laptop is going to start at $1,000 and go up to some crazy numbers, and you can go to Walmart and get a new Windows laptop for $300 or $400. And that's true, you can, but you're definitely not talking about the same caliber of machine or the same level of performance. So when you get into the equivalent performance on the laptops, I'm going to say, based on what I'm looking at, I was looking at this fairly recently because I did review the current Windows offerings again. I'm going to say it's probably a 10, maybe 20% premium on Apple products, and you are paying a little bit because it's Apple. There's no question there. But the other big thing for me is that I have an iPhone. I've had one for several years now, and when I got that phone, about half my family had iPhones. Now basically all my family has iPhones, and once I travel a lot, iPhones there's some neat things with messages and things like that, but FaceTime is a real big deal for me because I'm able to talk to my granddaughters by FaceTime. And I know you can use Skype and other things, but FaceTime is just really convenient and really cool, and it works great, and it's just wonderful to be able to talk to the grandkids that way. Also, it really plays nicely. When you have an Apple iPhone and a Windows computer, they don't play together too well. And I've had Linux computers when I had an iPhone too, and that's a lost cause altogether. But iPhones and Windows laptops don't play together that well. And having an iPhone and an Apple computer, a laptop, is a wonderful combination. They work together very well. I'm able to airdrop files between them, and they have a hands-off feature where if I'm using the Safari browser on my phone and then open up my laptop with a Safari browser, it knows what websites I was at, so I don't have to like try and remember where I was or something. So there's a lot of nice features like that. They just work together well. So that's kind of basically it. The kind of a combination of the software I wanted to try, and just I like some of the interaction between the computers and the FaceTime. Those were kind of the reasons. And in a related note, I can also do text messaging and FaceTime through my laptop as well, which is really fun. So those are kind of the main reasons I guess I went with Apple. I'm not like a hardcore Apple fanboy or anything like that, but I do like their products and their software, and so that's why I'm using that now. So that's it for these questions this month. We'll try and do this again the first weekend in May. I know this is like I'm a week late here in April, but if you all have been following my adventures, we've been traveling like crazy. So we're settled down a little bit now so I can start catching up on some of these things. But yeah, so if you want questions you want to ask for May, leave them in the comments here or shoot me an email, robert.witham@gmail.com. Or when it gets closer to the end of April, I'll post something on my Facebook page as well to remind everybody if you can ask questions there. And we'll get them included in the May Q&A video. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video.